11 a.m. in San Francisco and 7 p.m. in London. I'm Scarlet Fu.
And I'm Oliver Rennick. Welcome to Bloomberg Markets.
Live in Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York over the next hour. Plus, we're covering stories out of Washington, Paris, and Beijing. Here are the top stories we're covering from around the world and on the Bloomberg. We begin with markets risk on. All three major U.S. indexes on track for their best day since March following the Sunday French vote. Treasuries and gold are falling with investors betting on a Macron victory in the second round. In politics, a possible government shutdown looms, but Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin just telling reporters that President Trump is working hard to keep the government open. We'll examine the big week for the president's agenda. Plus, Turner Broadcasting Chairman and CEO John Martin says companies are moving their advertising dollars back to TV from digital. We'll have more from my interview with him later this hour. Let's get more context and numbers on today's rally and bring in Julie Hyman. So, Jules, it was up at the start of trading.
Yes, on this perception, not only that Macron will be victorious in the second round, but also that he's the best outcome for markets, lowers the risk.
Approaching his 100th day in office, and Congress returns from a 2-week recess. Lawmakers face a deadline to avert a government shut repeal and replace bill. Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Kevin Cirilli, our chief Washington correspondent, and Anna Edney, health reporter for Bloomberg News. Kevin, let's start with you. Give us a roadmap here of what we need to be aware of as we look first at the prospect of a government shutdown.
Well, the White House is saying that their hope
when it comes to health care, we know the White House, President Trump is promising to restart something on that front. But who's leading the effort? Is it Speaker Ryan? Does he have a plan in mind? I'm Scarlet Fu. What you missed, a big theme of late has been the rotation out of U.S. stocks and into European stocks and emerging markets. So here's the S&P 500 versus the Stoxx 600. We've normalized it back to June of 2007. The S&P 500 in its latest fund manager survey, Joe, indicates not so much because investors are already 48% overweight on European stocks, which is the highest in 15 months. And they're now 20% underweight on U.S.
Related to my chart, which looks at now, you look at the data, it's clicking. There may be a case like, wait, things aren't so bad in Europe. The political situation may be a little more stable than we thought. The data coming in nice. So you could see a bull argument in the case for a convergence between the two lines that you showed.
It certainly sets the tone for the rest of the year, doesn't it?
Suddenly a more positive story.
All right, the market close is next. Take a look at how I'm Scarlet Fu.
And I'm Joe Weisenthal. If you're tuning in live on Twitter, we want to...
What'd you miss? A day after qualifying for the second round of the French presidential election, Emmanuel Macron stumbles out of the gate. The candidate gave a 15-minute speech that some would say may have been better suited after a full election win. Joining us for more is Fran Burwell. She is vice president. Let's start first with the breakdown of the votes, because like the U.S. and like the U.K., France is clearly a very split country. If you look at a map and see who voted, which region voted for which candidate, it's clear that the East belongs to Marine Le Pen. The West represents the far right. Has she been making strides to bring over some of those Mélenchon voters? I'm Scarlet Fu. What'd you miss? Well, Mexico's soft data is lagging behind its hard data. So you've got this disparity between hard and soft data in the United States. We also see it in Mexico. It's just the reverse of what we're seeing in the U.S. Mexican consumer confidence, if we pull up the chart here, has been sliding since the second half of last year. That is the one.
We don't have this divergence like you have in the United States.
We'll see.
Very amusing. I want to look at the GMM function and sort of go back and look at the overall market today. It's a great way of seeing what things do across asset class.
My eyes hurt.
That's exactly what I said. When I got in today, and we're
seeing in risky assets is not going to last for very long.
Could be.
All right. We want to tell you as well that T-Mobile shares will begin trading at 4:30. So we will bring you that quote when it happens. Of course, T-Mobile reporting results saying that its viewpoint for the full year, the midpoint of that viewpoint misses analyst estimates. Coming up next, with the sun setting on
polls that we know that say Kevin Brady and Paul Ryan in the House have expressed interest in?
That's a great question, Joe.
Border adjustment tax, which, of course, many U.S. businesses have fought back against. Sahil, how fully formed are House GOP tax reform proposals that don't include the BAT? What'd you miss? Gains across the board for U.S. stocks, with the Nasdaq closing at a record high following the results of the first round of the French presidential election.
The sigh of relief heard around the world.
Yeah, polls were right this time. All right, coming up, don't miss this. McDonald's and Coca-Cola will be reporting first quarter Fed.
There's some good news for them.
That's all for What'd You Miss. Thanks for watching.
Have a great evening. This is Bloomberg.